Hello all, this is my review on Jaclyn Moriarty's A Corner of White. This is the uncorrected proof copy of the book, and it was sent to me by Marianne DePere, the review for her channel, for her Burn Bright channel, and it's going to be published by Pan Macmillan in September. It's getting released. And here on the cover, Marcus Zusak, no less, says that it's perfectly strange and absolutely comical and heartfelt, and I could not agree with him more. How right you are, Marcus Zusak. So this book is really hard to describe what the hell it is. I should say it's the first in a series. It's going to be called the Colours of Madeline series. Madeline. I say Madeline because it makes me feel like watching Madeline. Yeah, it's okay. Because I like making these comparison amalgamation things because they make sense to me, I will say that it is effectively a combination of what would happen if John Green and Neil Gaiman got together and made a book baby. This is how I feel would best describe A Corner of White. And it was something that I felt while reading it too. I'm like, this is very John Greeny and this is very Neil Gaiman-y, but it was very much its own thing. It was 100% very original and very entertaining and very interesting. It is contemporary realism, and some high epic fantasy in there as well. And it's sort of a parallel universe thing. We've got the world, which is our world, our everyday world, present day, and we've got the kingdom of Cello, which is a complete other world, so existing somewhere else, and it's a very segregated kingdom with all different little towns, and depending on where you are in the kingdom of Cello, you're in a different kind of, I guess, period of our time, like in terms of technology and advancements in medicine and that sort of thing. So depending where you are in Cello, your circumstances are different. So the town that we're in while we're in the Kingdom of Cello is Bonfire, and it's kind of, I guess, around the period maybe would be like 1950s, 1960s, I suppose. Like, for example, they have televisions, and they have cars, but they don't have internet, they don't have like iPods, that kind of thing. And so yeah, it just, depending on where you are in Cello, things can be different for you, and there's different like levels of wealth throughout the kingdom depending where you are as well. And the two worlds, like our world and Cello, coincide with one another and communicate via a series of letters that just start occurring quite randomly and in a really strange circumstance between our two dual protagonists, which are Madeline in the world, our world, and Elliot in Cello. And they start communicating between one another. But before their communication even begins, as a reader, we're going back and forth between Cello and our world. And spending time getting to know Madeline and Elliot and their circumstance, their set of friends, their family, what's going on in their lives. And what I like is you really do get a very strong sense of who these people are, or who they potentially could be, before their communication begins, which is really cool. There's lots of the writing style for the book is very unique. It's going to be really difficult to describe. There's some metaphors and writing techniques that are very interesting, and the language can be quite diverse, and just how sentences are structured in that, it can be very interesting and kind of flamboyant and vivid and things, but never too heavy-handed, or it doesn't occur too continually to be overbearing and to get tiresome and things. So it's just used enough that it's quite effective and adds a really distinct flavour and feel to the overall tone of the book, which was really cool. And that's both when you're in the world and in Cello, and it's used not only in like the dialogue between characters, which is often quite cool, but in just the description of who they are, what their feelings are. The emotions are handled in a really interesting way in this book. Yeah, it's just a very unique feel to it, which I thought was really cool. But it wasn't, unlike something like Daughter of Smoke and Bone or Shatter Me, two recent YA examples, it never got too much that I felt like I was suffocating under it. And it wasn't cumbersome, it didn't hinder the storytelling. And Madeline and Elliot are both quite interesting protagonists. I think you kind of side with Madeline a bit more readily and easily because you spend a little more time with her towards the beginning than you do with Elliot. and perhaps it's just because she's the girl character, and it tends to be a struggle for me to relate to the guy characters more, because I'm sexist like that. I don't mean to be, but it's just the case with me. And what I very much liked, and this is how it sort of reminded me of John Green, is that these are really flawed human beings that you're spending time with, and all the people around them are very flawed as well, so everyone just came across as quite real because they weren't all that great all the time, and I really appreciated that. Madeline is seen in one quite distinct way when we're meeting her, but we learn that her backstory and her kind of past life that she used to lead was very different. So she used to be almost an entirely different personality than what we're becoming accustomed to, so it's very hard at first to associate that past vision of her with the one we're getting used to, getting to know now. So that was kind of interesting to think of, like, someone who's changed their life has changed so much, and they themselves have changed so much, so that was interesting. And I just sympathised with her plight a little more. She has, especially in her world, there's a very strong supporting cast around her. She's got these two friends, Jack and Belle, who are around her a lot, and we spend a lot of quality time with them too, just on their own, which is really interesting. Like, rather than just being in the background and, like, in the shadow of this protagonist, they get their own screen time, which I thought was really cool. They were really interesting and really had their own distinct personality traits too. The same, like, Elliot, he's quite the popular guy in Cello, so it was a bit harder, I guess, because, you immediately think popular guy, like, dickhead, jock, jerky douchebag person, and there were some elements to him that kind of fitted into that trope, but he was still a sincere kid, and he was still coping with a lot and trying to get through things. And he had his own set of friends. You don't get to know them quite as well as you do Jack and Belle, but there were other characters in Bonfire, in the town, in Cello, that you get to know, and I really came to care for them. There were two, like, the sheriff and the deputy sheriff at the police station who were getting involved in stuff. I really liked both of those characters. It was just like, and there was really unique, weird people coming into town, especially in Cello. And there's a lot of mystery in the book, like, we're trying to work out what Madeline's past is and what's going on with her mum. Her mum might be really unwell, but then she might just be acting strange. There's a lot of mystery there. There's there's like almost a murder mystery thing at the core of Elliot's story in Cello, because he's trying to find his dad and other people have gone missing. That's where the policemen come in. There's, like, the fantasy aspect of Cello is quite kind of underscored and understated in this book. I think it'll come into things more down the line in the series, but you get, you hear that there's things like dragons and witches and vampires and stuff in the kingdom of Cello at large, because there's this lake of spells somewhere, so you can go there and get spells and wish things into being. So these fantastical creatures come into being because people want them to. And there's also this really big theme in the book is colours, which is sort of hinted with the cover and the rainbow and that, because colours are a force in Cello, and they can attack you, and they have impacts on you. They come like weather, so you'll be like, oh, it's a third grade red or something, and reds are quite bad colours. There's good colours and bad colours, but they come like, periods of weather, like a storm and that. You get storms of colours. It's really interesting, and it leads to a lot of, like, there's really in-depth, random, informative, like, theological, philosophical discussion between Elliot and Madeline in the book, in their letters and in their reflections. Their letters kind of serve not just as communication but as diary entries for them a lot of the time. They vent and rant in them, and they talk a great deal about just really obscure stuff, and colour comes into it a lot because Madeline's studying Isaac Newton. She's homeschooled along with Jack and Belle, so they kind of do their own thing. They're quite free thinking in what they study in that. She's studying Isaac Newton, so that's like his theories on colour and light and stuff, and it's a book with a heck of a lot of really mishmashy stuff that works really well to create a surprisingly coherent and really wonderfully crafted book. So it's really hard to describe though, but I really enjoyed it. And there also are meta aspects to the book because they're communicating by the letters, so they can't ever meet one another because they're in different universes. And Madeline doesn't believe that the kingdom of Cello exists, so she's kind of always mocking poor Elliot, and Elliot often doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And so at one point, like, he tells her, I'm in the kingdom of Cello, and like her reactions are things like, oh, it's a kingdom, I should have guessed. Always with the kings and queens, you fantasy guys. We're not a republic for once. I'm guessing next there'll be dragons, also some kind of strong-willed princess with rebellion on her mind. So she's like always mocking him, and when he says, I need to go to the magical north to get a spell to find my dad, she's like, you should change the name. Magical North makes me think of reindeers and Santa Claus, and maybe you're planning a trip to rip off Philip Pullman's Northern Lights. I'm like, that's awesome! Yay for references. So that was lots of fun. But it was just really, really interesting book. I know that because it's an Aussie author, it may not get a wider international publication, it may not be that easy to find, and people tend not to like it when I review kind of left field books on here. They only like to get my recommendations if it's mainstream titles everyone knows. But I really recommend, if you can get your hands on it when it's published in September, find A Corner of White. It was really interesting, really unique, and it's a YA read, but it's just got a great cast of characters, and the tone is fascinating. It's just lots of fun, but still emotionally engaging, and just pick the damn thing up if you can, because it's way good and stuff. So 5 out of 5 stars for sure, for Jaclyn Moriarty's A Corner of White.